Today we look at a replay of RTZ playing Terrorblade to see how you can win your lane and stay ahead for the entire game.
Lessons that cannot be unlearned.
Welcome to the Church of Obelisk. My name is Johan. So Terrorblade has been buffed a couple of times in the last patches. So 7.27 just slowed down the game a bit and also created the new drum, which is an excellent item on Terrorblade, which RTZ is going to go for in this game. And then in 7.27b, Terrorblade received a direct buff that his meta now no longer reduces the movement speed. So that is a pretty big deal and makes you both better at farming and also, of course, better at team fighting. So at the start, he's gone for a fairly conservative starting item build. He's gone for double tangos and 3 branches, and you can just then eat one of those branches and the other 2 are going to turn into a wand. Of course, wand, a very powerful item on Terrorblade because it's a low HP hero and every bit of extra tankiness is important, and also just the mana is also nice. So you're also going to go for wand. Then Wraith Bands have been changed, so they're a bit worse on Terrorblade than they used to be. But they're still, of course, a powerful stat item, and you typically still want to buy 1 or 2 Wraith Bands in the early game, especially in the lane. They're very strong. So if you're forced to jungle early, then maybe you can replace like one of these Wraith Bands with like a Gloves of Haste, for example, which is probably slightly better farming item. But if you're laning like this and if you're doing well in the lane, you want to maintain your strength by buying Wraith Bands. Even though he's queued up like this Ring of Tarask and this drum, is actually going to be buying 2 Wraith Bands in this game. And this is going to allow him to be very strong in lane, and you basically always want to use your meta when it's available. So the first meta that you used forced the Nature's Prophet back, and this just allows you to just trade better and get some better last hits and denies. And a big part of the reason why he's having a good game here so far is that he's playing against Pudge. Now Pudge was buffed in the last patch, but he's still a fairly weak lane, and they see that Pudge has left the lane. They can just bully out this Prophet and allow him to have an easy lane. And even though the Prophet actually had a good start, he's now only 3-3 in terms of last hit and denies, and RTZ on this Terrorblade is 14-5, so he's really winning this lane hard. Meta is almost up, so now is a good time to start seeking a fight, but Prophet being alone actually tries to put out, but Shakiro learns Ice Path just for that kill. Usually you don't want to put an early point in Ice Path on Shakiro, your other spell is just too important. But here, if it gets your kill, then go ahead and get it. Just mostly just for the ability to interrupt teleports, which of course is enormously important against Prophet. So they get that kill, didn't even have to use meta, but now they can just save that meta for the next time Nature's Prophet comes in. So with meta available, Shakiro comes in and try and fight this, but Prophet walks away and only takes a couple of hits. But still, this Prophet is now quite low and he's gonna have a hard time against this Terrorblade with meta. So Terrorblade trying to kill some of these treants. The treants are not very important, they don't give very much gold anymore, so you can still kill them, but mostly it's just about taking away resources from the Prophet. It's not so much about gaining golden experience yourself. So Prophet just takes so much damage here. That's also partly with the nerfs to Prophet. Prophet got his base armor reduced by 2. So at this point you want to be pushing in the lane. You don't want to have a static lane anymore. You want to push the lane in, and then this gives you time to do jungle camps. He has meta available, so you can use meta and his conjure image to do this creep camp, which is exactly what he's going to do. So a big mistake that a lot of lower MMR Terrorblade players make is that they just treat meta as if it's some sort of hugely valuable resource. No, you just want to use it whenever you can, especially in the early game. Just use it for farming, use it for any sort of advantage you can get, and don't worry too much about this cooldown. It's like the more often you use it, the more often you actually get to have meta, and meta lasts for a pretty long time and really speeds up your farm. So after clearing this stack, you're just going to move into the jungle and jungle a bit, and this leaves the Drakiro to soak some experience. Not Drakiro leaving the lane because he wants to fight here, but you know, it's not a good idea. Doesn't work out so well. So Terrorblade is just going to farm here a bit and actually heading home to base, which is not typically what you want to do. But since he was very close to the base anyway, he went for that. Now he's going to go and defend the mid lane. Of course, very important lane to defend, but you don't want to farm here. This is too dangerous. So he just heads into the triangle, which is of course the safest place to farm. And right around this point in time, you know, like around like 8 to 10 minutes, you want to leave the safe lane and just play more the triangle. And here it's 9:30. He's going to smoke to the top. The purpose of the smoke is first of all take a fight with meta, and then to take this tier 1 tower, because this is a very important tower to take, and if you've taken this tower then you can easily secure the runes which are coming up in a couple of seconds. They force this fight, and Terrorblade, with all the good start he's had, is actually a very strong fighter at this point. So they take these 2 kills and they can pressure this tower and claim the bounty runes at top. So sitting the tower and being very careful here, being very far away from any point of heroes that can port in. Hero can port in like here, but that just gets killed with the ice path coming from Drakiro. So Terrorblade is actually a surprising amount of damage at this stage of the game. So why is he going for Drum? Well, Drum is an item that got changed recently. It's now much cheaper, and it just offers you a pretty efficient amount of stats. It gives you 20 movement speed, which is always nice, 6 all stats, and 1.5 mana regen. All these are stats that Terrorblade really likes. In particular, that mana regen is important. So even though he has this Drum, and even though he has Royal Jelly, you're going to see that he's still going to have problems with mana. He's still going to have to ship out some clarities throughout this game. But like without this Drum, you would have to use so many more clarities and maybe even mangoes to just keep up your Illu spam, which is so important to farming. And Drum is pretty much the only mana regen item that is sensible on Terrorblade. Of course, you don't want to buy something stupid like Duels. You could, of course, buy a Soul Ring, but that doesn't really work out too well with the way Terrorblade uses mana. You're only using 85 mana at a time, mostly. So Soul Ring is not really suitable for that. And like, what are the other alternatives? Like, you don't want to buy something like a Solar Crest. That's just not really a Terrorblade item. So pretty much the only sensible mana regen item is the Drum. So he teleports into this fight, and with this Drum active, he can actually fight here. So with Drum plus meta, you're actually a very, very strong fighter in the early mid game. And this patch, of course, is a bit slower than the previous patch, but still, it doesn't mean that you can just afford to AFK farm for 30 minutes. Like the times when Terrorblade could go for something stupid like a Battle Fury and just farm for 30 minutes and then show up to fights, that time is over. You need carries in this patch who can fight in the mid game. Terrorblade is of course still gonna scale really well, but you do want to have items that also allow you to fight, that also allow you to join your team. Because if your team is fighting 4v5 all the time and the enemy team is as 5, you're just going to lose so many fights, and you're just not going to have any space on the map to farm if you just abandon your team and allow the enemy team to take all the objectives. Because yes, the game is slower, but you still need to defend your towers, particularly your tier 2 towers. Because if you use an early tier 2 tower, they can just go and claim your shrine or your outpost, and then the places on the map where it's safe to farm become a lot less, and you're just going to have a bad time. So whenever you have meta available, you want to fight with your team if it's in a convenient spot, if it's a fight you can win. Don't take any fight, but if it's a good fight and you have meta available, definitely go join your team. If you have a fight brewing where he doesn't have meta, and even though he's still going to join his team, he still has drum charges, he still has some reasonably efficient items. So with this Mars ulti, they take a good fight at the start here, kill Nature's Prophet, kill the Storm, only losing the support in return. But now they're chasing, and actually Lina is very low, so she walks away. But someone to continue fighting here, which is not a good idea, because they're essentially 2 versus 3 here in this fight. So Terrorblade with the stick, you can see how much the stick reduces sword with the low HP pool that Terrorblade has, but it's not enough and they just all die here. So during this fight in the start was fine, they got the 2 kills, that was good, but then chasing down here with the Lina returning with no HP, that was the problem, and that's why they in the end lost that fight. You can see RTZ even queuing up a Heaven's Helmet. He doesn't end up actually going for the item, but this just shows you the mindset that he has. He's in the mindset of, you know, we need to be able to fight in the mid game because the enemy has a strong mid game lineup. So if you survive the mid game, the late game is ours anyway because we have Terrorblade. So that's why he's willing to go for a Heaven's Helmet. Of course, an excellent item against Ursa, also good against Storm and Nature's Prophet. As all these right-click focused heroes just get eliminated with that item. Mars jumps in here, tries to go for an ultimate, but doesn't quite get anyone. Only this Ursa. So they just back off. That's okay if you whiff an ultimate, just back off. But in this case, they can't quite back off, so they have to fight here. And you want to, of course, focus on whatever is available. You're not particularly fast even after the changes, so you just have to hit targets that are nearby. But preferably you want to hit the squishier targets, of course. This Ursa, for example, just doesn't die very quickly if you hit him. But if you hit something like the Prophet or the Lion, they can die quite fast. They try to go with this Ursa. Mars once again whiffing his spells, so it's not going to be easy here. They keep chasing, but this is not going to be a kill here. So he has to back off here. With reinforcements coming in, he's going to use his ultimate on the Storm Spirit, get the kill here, and now they have to back off. Still has the Manta available, so he uses that to dispel, and now Ursa almost dies, but not quite. So a bit of a deep dive. They do get the Storm, but they lose the Mars, so overall that's they win, but yeah, it could have gone better here. So now he's good about Butterfly, which is a very greedy item. So he's very far ahead, so you can kind of afford to do it, but also at the same time, there's a lot of burst on the enemy team. They have this Lion with his burst, Ursa of course does a lot of damage, and then Storm with his initiation, with Orchid and so on, is quite powerful, and you have the Pudge with Dismember and Hook and so on. So it's actually better to go for the Skadi, which is actually queuing up right now. So in a lot of games you would at this point go for a BKB, but here BKB is not that great of an item. So he's going just for the extra stats for the Skadi here, and in this fight you're gonna kill this Lion. So Skadi is a good item here because it allows you to kite the Ursa. Ursa, when he's slowed down, is a lot weaker, and just having a lot of extra stats is always great on Terrorblade, and it's just a great item to go for. Also helps with the mana regen because you have so much int with that item. So now they go for Roshan because 3 people are dead. Of course the Pudge is going to respawn right now, but 2 people are still dead, and with meta this goes quite quickly. And normally I would say at this point you should leave this Aegis to Lina, because Terrorblade is not the best Aegis carry, because if you die with meta you get resurrected without meta. But here in this game he's so far ahead, he has by far the highest net worth, that it makes a lot of sense to have the Aegis on the Terrorblade. And let's just keep pushing these towers, just keep using the advantage. They're actually not very far up in gold, but with that Aegis it's very hard for the enemy team to actually fight. And like by the time they clear this Aegis, he would have meta back up, so it's very hard for them to actually fight here. So he's just going to siege the high ground here and use meta right away and not allow this Pudge to get any sort of hooks off. So he's used the meta, so if they kill him now he's not going to have meta for the rest of the fight. But you can see just how powerful this Skadi is, how much slow there is on that Lion. Lion, however, does survive, and so now he's a bit of a rough spot, gets hooked in here, but they don't quite manage to finish him off, and he is able to get off a thunder here. And this is a good fight with lots of people dying, so they can't really fight here too well. So they forced a couple of buybacks and not really losing anything. And since they're still very strong, he's just going to keep hitting this Rax. And there's two people still dead, so RTZ just says hit this Rax, and they're just going to take this melee Rax. It takes them a while, but eventually they do claim the melee Rax, and then they just back off. It's not worth to risk your life for this ranged Rax here. So very disciplined play here, and able to claim all these objectives. And notice how in this game RTZ is keeping this Quelling Blade in his inventory all the time. The reason for this just he's playing as Nature's Prophet. If you're not against Prophet, you will of course have the Wraith Band in the slot rather than the Quelling Blade. It's a bit of a scuffle here, and even though he doesn't have meta, he's going to join this fight. It's near his tier 2 tower, and you want to defend your triangle. That's a very convenient place for you to fight. He's going to go after whatever targets he can. You don't have range here, so you're just confined to attacking nearby targets, slowing them down, and doing as much damage as possible. You still do a respectable amount of damage even without meta, but of course people can just kite you. But with the rest of his team providing some disable and so on, he's able to claim a couple of kills, and yeah, it's a 3-for-3 exchange with Nature's Prophet going to be able to escape here. So fairly balanced fight with the Dire team actually coming on top of his net worth because they are behind. But that's of course a fight without meta. And of course if he hadn't joined that fight would have gone a lot worse. Mars is just minding his own business, farming an easy camp here when he gets initiated by this blinking Pudge. So Mars is not going to be able to be saved here, but with Terrorblade joining in here with meta up, they can do a ton of damage just focusing on these vulnerable heroes. Now that Ursa is the only one in range, he's going to attack the Ursa, but generally we're going to go for the easier targets, like this Lion here. So Lion going to get killed. So they had to use a buyback for this fight, so actually it's a fight that's pretty even. Lina finds an Ursa and uses the Yules to set up the combo, but she gets interrupted by the Storm. And now you see RTZ actually saving her with the Sunder. This of course puts himself in danger. Still has the 1 charges, so he's kind of okay, but he doesn't have metamorphosis anyway. And that's a big part of the reason why he went ahead and sundered at Lina, as this allows Lina actually to play this fight super well. So RTZ dies here, but because of a sacrifice, Lina now gets to clean up everything, and they find Nature's Prophet here and kill him. So they got the 3 kills, and this Lion's also gonna die. So they get the 4-for-1 exchange. Like, okay, they sacrificed super farmed RTZ, but he wouldn't have contributed very much to this fight anyway because he had no meta. But in this way he enabled Lina to win the fight, and that is definitely worthwhile sacrifice. So sundering to save your allies is usually not something you want to do as a Terrorblade unless you have like a really bad game, but here in this situation it was definitely the right move and allowed them to win that fight. Dire team managed to do Roshan, so now they have this Storm Spirit with Aegis, can do this long range initiation onto Terrorblade. RTZ plays his way out of this and tries to get some distance here from the Ursa, but with Pudge coming in it's not so easy. Now that he has his Abyssal up, he can be a bit more mobile here and try to get him done here, but he unfortunately still falls here. But of course this is a fight against a Storm Aegis. It's always difficult to win such a fight, and so far at least they're coming out in not too bad of a shape. But now with Lina being run down, she is also going to die here. But the problem with this kind of play from the Dire is that they're just killed the heroes. They haven't taken any objectives, they haven't pushed in any lanes. You can see they have 2 heroes alive and they killed everyone, but what do they actually do now? They have no waves. Like, they can take this tier 1 tower, I guess, but other than that it's really, really difficult. So RTZ gets initiated on here in this fight, but his team is nearby. So they try to burst him, and with no BKB It's definitely a possibility, but he does just barely get the Thunder off, so can do some more damage here. And now they can just stay here with Ursa down. Continuous Prophet is not going to make it out, and they get all these kills, only losing Lina in the process. So with meta still up now, they can push and maybe get something more done. But of course they have to be afraid that there's still going to be a buybacks available, so they get another kill here. I mean, I'm not quite sure what this Pudge was doing. He's trying to get that kill, but didn't work out, so at least they can get this range racks and possibly something more. They force a buyback out of Pudge. That's a good start here, but they still have 2 cores dead. Now with 2 buybacks available, they should probably back off here, especially since meta is now off, but gets hooked in, so they're kind of forced to fight. And you want to go for the Storm Spirit if possible, but if without meta you really don't really have much choice in choosing your targets. Just attack whatever is near and just use the Abyssal when it's available. So now they've gotten a couple of kills here. It's gone surprisingly well, so they can take more objectives, but Storm is a huge problem here. Whenever Storm is sort of near his own fountain, it's very difficult to actually deal with him, and he has no Quelling Blade left here, so he's kind of in trouble. So Mars is going to actually give him the spider legs to be able to get out of that sprout, especially there's no Peter there to get him out of here, so he has to rely on the spider legs to actually get the Storm here. So now they can continue this push. Does Storm have buyback? No, he does not, but they don't know that, so we have to be careful. But with the melee racks already down at the top, they can just keep pressuring here. Unfortunately, there's still tier 2 tower down here, so they can't get megas, and kind of unsure exactly what they want to do. They're going to try to take these tier 4 towers, but of course it's always quite risky. But meta is now going to be up, so they can keep fighting, and he's gone here for this very defensive build. You have the Satanic, you have the Abyssal, you have the Ioscadi, super tanky build, and he just identified in this game that he just needs to survive the enemy burst, and then they can always win the long fight. So that is what he's itemized for, and of course Satanic was also great against all this disabled from your Ursa. Of course has the Abyssal Blade, and of course you can go for VKB, but against Abyssal and against Pudge with all this Dismember and Meathook, VKB is not actually that great, so we'd rather go for the Satanic here, and with this they're able to claim this game and just have a very smooth game here. Just had a good early game, good mid game, good late game, and winning the game. And Terrorblade is just like a hero that's not super overpowered, but he's like, I think, an above average hero. You can definitely pick if you want to have a reliable, solid carry, and that's what we saw in this game. If you want to see more reliable, solid carrying, I would recommend you watch these videos on the screen, and all is willing, I'll see you there.